Okay, so this is actually not an herb that I'm showing you today. This is one of the plants that I would consider to be truly invasive. So I'm from Idaho, Montana region. Grew up there when I was a kid and didn't, pretty much stayed there a good portion of my life before moving to the Pacific Coast. And one of the plants that is rampant over this entire area is what we call knapweed. So knapweed has these purple flowers that you get in the late summer. She's really bristly, hard, super scratchy. And this is a little bit of a look at her stalk. Like we're talking, this is like rougher than sage. Those are the little blooms. She has a very strong stalk and goes deep roots. So she has like a main tap root and then other roots that come off the main shoot. So this plant is actually originated from Siberia. So she's a northern, very hardy tundra type plant. The reason I would say this plant is truly invasive is because her roots emit a sort of toxin into the ground that prevents other things from growing around her. So she's highly competitive for environment and quite literally toxic to other plants. So that being said, she takes over huge areas, big fields, loves the big, hot, dry hillsides that you see all through, especially Montana, but Idaho as well. And her combined with mullein just tend to be this like brutal combo that a lot of the native plants can't compete against. Even if you end up like pulling her out, she's very hardy, will grow back. It takes it takes a lot of time and a lot of dedication to pull because she grows really tall. Let me zoom out here a little bit. So you have a fence here. These are your standard daisy size. And then up here is all the knapweed. So, I mean, those tallest ones in the back there are probably about 4 feet tall. She gets huge, very prevalent, just highly competitive. And even while you're pulling her, if you happen to, like I was pulling her, and I went and I ate something like a snack, because it was, I just needed a break. And apparently I didn't wash my hands well enough, and I could literally taste the toxin from her, and it was gross. Definitely one of the, I won't say the worst, but one of the worst things I've tasted. And that was after probably about an hour or so just pulling her out of my dad's yard. But she's really hardy, does not come out easily, will cut your hands, so you should use gloves. Apparently that day I wasn't. But highly recommended to use gloves while pulling her. I've gotten some deep cuts from just trying to yank her out of the ground, and then finding out how deeply she was rooted, and cut my hands. So, yeah, this is knapweed, and Siberian plant, highly invasive. There's a little bug on there, that was cute. I don't tend to see a lot of pollinators going around to use her. It's probably because of the toxins within her. The purple flowers are pretty. They'll get a little bigger than these ones. But that's about all she's got going for her. As far as I know, there's no medicinal use for her. And I'm usually not one to say plants are invasive, like, or noxious, because sometimes that's a construct. I I mean, there are some that are harmful to native plants. Mullein is definitely one that's causes difficulties for native plants, especially around this area as well. She's also considered invasive. However, she has herbal medicinal uses to her, whereas I can't say the same for knapweed. So yeah, just keep an eye out for her in your yard, especially if you're in a high arid climate. Pull her where you can. Get rid of as much as possible. The other thing you can do is wait until she gets to where right before all of these bloom, so about now, you could go through and just cut everything, like with the lawnmower. It's going to be pretty rough on your lawnmower. But if you do it before these bloom, then you stand a better chance of getting on top of managing her. That's kind of what my parents have done with their yards. I'm just over in the corner here where it's just a spot where you can't mow. So these ones are kind of left over here. But and that's knapweed, invasive plant. I would say noxious plant. And yeah, pull her out where you see her. Unfortunately, she's just not one that's really good for your yard. Not really good for our native plants or pollinators, and not really medicinal. So, there you go. One more look at the bloom.